Welcome back to Girl Take the Lead, the podcast where we challenge the status quo, share meaningful conversations, and explore what it really means to find our voice and lead with intention. And I'm your host, Yo Canny. Have you ever felt that you've spent part of your life trying to be who others expected you to be? Perhaps you've been the achiever, the caretaker, the people pleaser, or the one who always seemed to have it all together. And then one day you find yourself wondering, who am I underneath all of that? Today's guest has spent much of her life helping people answer that question. I'm delighted to welcome Marisa Handler, award winning author, prize winning poet, singer songwriter, and creative coach. Marisa's work lives in the intersection of personal transformation, creativity, and what she calls living your genius. In this conversation, we explore how fear, grief, anger, and even shame can become unexpected guides on the path back to ourselves. We talk about authenticity, creativity, leadership, worthiness, and even the courage it takes to stop performing our lives and start living them. Along the way, Marisa shares a beautiful poem called Grace and even sings a portion of her song, Seed and Star. It's a thoughtful and inspiring conversation about trusting yourself, reclaiming your voice, and remembering that your worth was never something you had to earn. Let's jump in. Here you go. Marisa, welcome to Girl Take the Lead. This is going to be such a fun conversation. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Yo. I'm happy to be here. Yeah.
Let's kick things off with if you would tell our listeners a bit about your background.
Yeah. I am originally from South Africa. We moved when I was quite young, and gosh, there's a lot I could say, but what I'll perhaps, most briefly say is that what I do, I'm a writer, I'm a singer, and I'm a coach, and my life's work is really helping people, generally women, it's usually women who come to me, stop performing their lives and start really living them from their full aliveness and authenticity and power and joy.
Mm. So, performing, let's talk a little bit more about that part.
Yeah, I mean, we're all subject to this. I think we all wear many masks, and these masks are often things that got us through, things that we really needed.
Mm.
Um, and I think, and I imagine this is true of your listeners, like that we get to a certain point in life where they're sort of just old wiring, like dinosaurs in there that don't really serve us anymore. And I think women especially, we're so inculcated to really be caregivers and caretakers of others and pacifying or fawning or whatever it is. It can be a real journey to come into our true selves, to even discover who and what that is,
Mhm.
and then to step into that, and then to really show that and give that to the world. Because in my experience, and I've worked with at this point hundreds, if not thousands of people, um, it's a real gift when we actually do that. We
Mm.
really each are here with something very distinct and particular. And when we can fully step into that, step into, if you will, our genius,
Mm.
we give that to others. We are much more kind of online in all the ways. We're lit up in ways that we're not dampening ourselves. We're not shutting things down, and that draws people.
Mhm.
It draws people. We find our tribe. There's just so many benefits. And when we are authentic, we naturally shine. So it's not a question of performing, um, shining, performing something. It's just there.
Yeah. It also what comes to mind for me is that performing is, as you said, not being true to yourself and to your authenticity, but almost meeting somebody else's expectations.
That's right. That's right. Like, and we're so good at being chameleons, you know. In this dynamic, I'm like this. In that dynamic, I'm like this, you know, in the work situation with that, you know, colleague, whatever. But it's not that those ways haven't served us, and it's not that
Mm,
sometimes, you know, like there are situations we do need to be a little tougher or a little softer or whatever it might be. Um, you know, in working with people, I'm pretty emphatic around we actually really want to love up these old ways of being
mm,
that have served us, that maybe were survival at some point. But when there's a gap between that and who we genuinely are, that's where our energy is leaking out.
yeah. I know that after being in corporate for so long, I found it hard to determine what I cared about, like what was my voice in things, which is how the podcast kind of got started because I was like, well, what do I think about that? I don't know. I need, so it was, I totally get how we can lose that. But
Like that's a beautiful example. Like you saying, well, what do I even, you know, what is my voice? Led you through a journey that resulted in this,
yeah.
where you're reaching people through your own, like that's what happens when we kind of get curious
Mhm.
and come into what feels real.
Yeah. So what was your evolution to become this coach and, agent of change and creativity?
Mm. Yeah, you know, I think things really big kind of in a certain way gotten going when we left South Africa. I was about a month shy of 12. And you know, well, they started earlier growing up as a white child in apartheid South Africa in a society that was, you know, profoundly divided and just wrong on so many levels. Uh, and yet, you know, it was what I knew. And we were very connected in terms of community and to the land and then coming to Southern California and that rupture, really, that rupture with everything that was familiar, our extended family, you know, my teachers and friends and community. And I think in a sense, that began a journey of like, well, what is home? Where is home? How does home manifest? And um, you know, ultimately, where that took me was not a place, but a sense of home is authenticity in the self.
Mm,
You know, it's really, can I come home to this one here, to what's true and you know and real. And so there's been lots of different, you know, parts to that journey. And I've always been deeply creative, so that, you know, this began manifesting in ways that were creative. But even that, it was a journey to, you know, I was writing as a young adult. I was writing and publishing, but I was doing a lot of activism. But I went back and got my MFA in creative writing at 31. It took me a while to give myself full permission
mm,
to really sink into creativity.
mm. What are some of the blocks you've seen with the people that you've worked with? Is it kind of this thing we were just talking about, like meeting somebody else's expectation, or what else do you see there?
Yeah, I mean, I think th this can manifest in different ways, and I'll speak to some of them, but fundamentally, it's like the block as it manifests, it's almost always an unfelt feeling that's hardened into a belief.
Mhm,
So it might be, um, you know, for many of us on some level, developmentally, like I'm not safe. I'm not safe in my friend group. I'm not safe with this parent. I'm not safe if I am authentically myself, right? And so I'm going to need to do the kinds of things that keep me safe. And this can, again, this can show up in so many different ways, whether it's control or, you know, a certain fawning or fighting, a certain like trauma response. But generally, it comes down to that. It's like when I'm working with clients or students, it's about getting into like what's the belief and what's underneath that belief, which can be a whole world,
Mhm.
and really coming into loving accompaniment with the underlying fear. It's
Mm.
usually fear, you know. I mean, fear is underneath resistance, fear, you know, it's underneath a lot of things. And beginning to let someone see for themselves that the nervous system see that actually it might just be safe to be me.
Mm. 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 Well, I wonder too, when you were talking about fear, and do the emotions that come out of those beliefs, are they kind of connected to each other? And do you see, are there, is that why emotions are so important to be able to observe them?
Oh yeah, I mean yeah, it's usually not it's very rarely just one simple thing. It's usually very much connected, and
Mhm.
you know the Latin root for emotion is movere, which is, I mean, it's move. You know, it's like literally around movement, and emotions are their weather. You know, they need to move, and where we get stuck, and this can lead to illness as well as, you know, all kinds of, you know, depression or anxiety, is when that's not moving. And again, when they're not moving, when we're shutting things down or blocking them, we're doing it for good reason, because at some point that meant survival, it meant safety, it meant belonging, it meant getting love, whatever it meant. And, you know, when we can begin to allow these places to move, that's when everything changes. Usually, you know, there's some, what I've seen is yeah, there can be a whole sort of range of weather systems in there. Fear is often the sentinel at the gate. You know,
Mhm.
it's the one that's like, oh, 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 you know, like just stay out. And I actually think when I encounter, you know, when I'm working with someone or with in my group program, when that comes up, I actually take it as good news,
Mhm.
because fear, if it's coming up, it means that that gate is beginning to maybe creak open a little bit.
Mhm.
And it's a real harbinger of change, of the possibility of change. So it's almost never, like when fear is speaking, it's almost never what it says it's about. Almost never, you know. It's actually the sentinel at the gate of the next version of you.
Mm.
So can we learn to like, ooh, okay, this is scary, you know, this is a lot. Like, can I stay with this? Can I, you know,
Mhm.
tolerate this instead of just acting or reacting in response to it, shutting down, closing off, whatever, you know, like, no way can I do that, whatever it might be. Um, and when we can do that, other things will begin to move.
Mm. So is there an example? Because like I want to just make sure that I'm seeing it for myself, because I'm thinking, okay, I can have an emotion. I see the emotion is, maybe anger. Okay. And it gives me a clue that there's something going on for me. I need to dig in and take a look at it. Is that kind of, and you're saying that's a good thing, because
It is
that'll
a
help
good thing.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll help me
Yeah.
break some stuff up so that I can handle things differently. Um, but I think you were pointing at some other things there too that could help.
Yeah. 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 And I mean, I want to just say about anger that, I mean, because each of these is I see each of these as a doorway. I just want to say that. Like, each of these is a key doorway. Anger it's a boundary that hasn't yet found its voice.
Mm.
You know, it's excellent information. It's real data. And when we stop suppressing anger, and this is especially for women, this is so big, you know, it really can become clarity and genuine power. Like, this is where I
Mhm.
stand. This is the boundary. Um, Grief. I want to just touch on each of these a little bit around like what they are portals to. You know, when we hit grief, and typically, again, when I'm working with someone, each of these comes up. Shame tends to be right at the bottom, so I'll get to that in a minute. But But grief is often, I mean, when grief comes up and it comes up in a big way, it may be grief that we've been holding on to for a long time, and it wasn't able to move. You know, we may be mourning the loss of a parent who suddenly was, abandoned us, or there was some kind of neglect. But when it can really move, it's a portal to our deep belonging. It
Mm,
takes us back into the circle. You know, grief is almost always around some level of I don't belong, I'm exiled, I'm abandoned, I'm not good enough, whatever it is. And when we truly open to the power of it, it brings us back into that circle. It brings us back into our belonging. Shame, um, wow, like shame is such a big one, and it's so often what shuts women down, what keeps us from stepping onto a
mhm.
path that does feel more true to us. Shame says, you're the problem, not the situation, but you. Like there is something intrinsically wrong with you, and you are more broken than everybody else. You know, if we
Yeah.
really get up close and personal with our shame, and it takes so much courage to do this, I really want to emphasize this. Um, Often I see this, I mean, it's ironic because I see over and over this place in people saying, actually, I'm uniquely broken.
Absolutely.
Nobody else is quite as
I'm broken
wrong
as
as
me.
me. And that just kills creativity. But when we can work with shame and do work with it in a way that's effective, it brings us into an unquestioned sense of our worth,
Yeah.
of a worth that is so much deeper than what I'm achieving, how I'm presenting, how I'm being perceived. Am I taking care of this person's? It's a much deeper sense of worth.
Do you think that shame guards secrets? Like, it just seems like it's the biggest secret we're
Yeah,
walking around with.
yes, that's exactly right. And I mean, I've had my own real journey around this. I had one of the themes I teach on is navigating the dark night of the soul, and I often work with people who are really going through a very, very difficult time. And I know for myself, I'd been this, very high achieving young woman, and then I completely fell apart. I had graduated from my MFA program. I'd gotten a Fulbright to work on a novel in India. It looked really good from the outside. And on the inside, I was just getting more and more anxious. And I got to Varanasi, India, and I stopped sleeping. I was just stuck in
Mhm.
panic and terror. And uh, it just really floored. Like, who is this woman here?
Yeah.
I don't even know who this is. And I ended up coming home from India and really just navigating my way through a breakdown. I wasn't able to work. I was scared to go to the grocery store. I was so tired that getting dressed in the morning felt like too much.
Mhm.
It was that intense and extreme. And um, it was a process of working my way through. And I'm gonna fast forward ahead to when I had emerged sufficiently. One of the reasons that I wrote and published about my experience was because the shame had been so oppressive. It was as bad as the experience itself, I would say. And I like just to go from being someone who people, kind of admired to this person who was barely functioning. I had heavy, heavy shame around it.
Mhm.
I came out of the closet because I wanted to spare other people that kind of shame.
Mhm.
And in telling my secret, because it had been, like only the closest people to me really knew. And even that, like they were really struggling to understand. Um, it felt like a really necessary step.
Mhm.
And what what I discovered, I mean, that piece, it actually kind of went viral. And it was so interesting. That was a very deep learning for me
Mhm.
around what we're all holding on to. what so many of us are holding on to, this terrible secret that we think, and then when we kind of spill the beans,
Yeah.
and I've seen this with this is not only in my own journey, I've seen this with clients that I work with, that when we can be that degree of vulnerable and authentic, we really get met in amazing ways.
We do.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like all the spirits come by and pick us up and keep us going because
completely.
it's so clear. Like we're so clear about it. So I know my listeners would love to know how they could read what you wrote about that. And is it in your book or is it?
That essay, it's on my website, which is a good home for everything. It's marisahandler.com. And there's a lot there, but if you go to the writing page, I think there's a few pieces there on the Dark Night, getting
Okay.
through the Dark Night. Yeah,
I know that one of the things that we talked about was what you've written about grace
yeah,
and
yeah,
your poem. Can you treat our audience to reading that for us?
gladly. Yeah, grace. I believe in grace. I believe in the black market currency of the unknown. Fresh pennies in deep sea caves, and the dream that loiters, oblique. I believe in the weave and heft of the small things we mostly neglect to see. Dandelion and anemone and relentless ant. I believe in the mercy of solitude and the kindness of trees. I believe in dancing with its wide faith, its surrender to the body's malted hungers. I believe we are all waiting out the race. Even as our legs collapse beneath us, our eyes scour the heavens for evidence of what we know and have known and will again forget. I believe in grace.
Oh boy. I hope our listeners closed your eyes and took that in or kind of play it again so that it's just so beautiful.
Thank you.
It really does help us feel the grace that we want to get to and live our life with and be on the other side of. So I appreciate that you've written that and that you've shared that with us. Thank you.
Thing I want to just say about that poem,
Mm,
and that the takeaway, I'm generally hesitant to explain poetry, but the takeaway here is grace isn't something that you earn. It's something that you stop resisting.
mm, mm. Nice. Very nice. One of the things that we were talking about was how creativity relates to leadership.
Yeah.
And you have some thoughts on that.
Yeah.
How do you see
Yeah.
that?
I thank you. Yeah. So creativity and leadership. Wow. I think these two are so intertwined. The most powerful leaders that I know, they're not necessarily the ones with the best strategy. They're the ones who know themselves well enough to tell the truth in a room.
Mhm.
So creativity, it is that capacity. It's the capacity to see what isn't there yet and make it real.
Mm,
And
yeah.
I think every act of genuine leadership is on some level creative, really. And this is especially why women, I think, need to really reclaim this because we've been taught to manage, to handle, to react, to respond, to caretake, not to create.
Yeah. I think we bring empathy and other insights into the room that others don't see
Yes.
that we can offer. Um, I love what you said though about almost every leadership act being creative because in the moment there's no roadmap.
Right.
You're creating each time you're making a decision, or you're, mobilizing people or doing whatever. It's no one has done it before exactly the way that you're going to do it.
That's right. That's right. And what you spoke to is key. Women, the empathy, that gives us the gifts of reading the room, right?
Mhm.
Of sensing into what's happening. And also, I mean, I don't even want to be instrumental about it. Like empathy itself is tremendous. It is a gift, it's a gift to others, just are embodying that. And I think the leadership part is where, we can read that room and we can speak the truth. Like there's enough self-knowledge, and connection with our voice,
Yeah.
um, to say what needs to be said,
Yeah.
even if it's not always what wants to be heard.
Maybe there's trust there too, that we trust ourselves, that in the moment we're going to know what to do.
That's right. Exactly. Yes. And it's trusting something deeper than our and this is where again creativity and leadership really overlap. It's something deeper than our like planning, caretaking mind,
Yeah.
but a deeper trust in just um in who we are, in our internal ground, in our own goodness,
Yeah.
even if we're being perceived otherwise.
Yeah. I want to go back a little bit to the creative process a bit, because I found myself yesterday, I was working on a card.
Mm.
My listeners know that I have an online store, and I was making a card, and it was almost this experience of the colors coming through me.
Mm,
It was wild. And it was like I could see it was like lights and color. And, when I sat down, I knew nothing about what that card was going to look like. And in fact, I was going down one direction and I went, oh no, this is not it. Then I kept trying to presence the person that I was doing the card for,
mm,
and his energy and
mm,
his light. And I went, oh, okay, got it. Bright colors. He's bright. He's, got this huge energy. And then it all just started to fall. And I went, that is pretty cool.
beautiful. Yeah. I mean, when working with someone and that happens, I get very excited because I'm like, that's the channel is open,
Yeah.
and that's I think that's why we love even those of us who don't consider ourselves creative, and I believe everybody's creative. I believe we all have this. It can manifest in very different ways. But that's when it's almost like we've moved out of the way enough. There's enough openness, there's enough whatever is, work we've done in ourselves, whatever it might be, that the channel can really open and something beautiful can come through. And this is what, as a creator myself, this is possibly my favorite part of the creative act is that kind of like I'm dancing, I'm co-creating with something bigger than me. And I'm
Yeah.
and I'm dancing with it, and it's mysterious and I'm discovering what's happening as I go, and it's a very intuitive process, like what you were saying, like, oh yeah, this doesn't feel quite right. Okay,
Mhm.
let's try that,
Yeah.
that's the creative act. And it sounds to me like the channel was open and things were moving through and I
Yeah.
just,
It it really felt the ability to abandon something too that wasn't working.
yes.
The the willingness to surrender to that and to say, okay, no, 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 it's a different direction. It's something like this. Yeah, that was pretty joyful in the moment.
Beautiful. Yeah, and women, I want to emphasize that women know how to do this. We know how to feel and like on the level of the heart of the gut, not quite. Nope, doesn't really land. We may not always have language for it.
Mm,
Um, and this is not like prefrontal cortex operating
right.
here, it's deeper. We know how to do this, we really do.
Yeah. Now, you're just such a creative soul that I wonder if you have a favorite form. of expression. I mean, you write and you sing and you write poems and books and you coach people and you work with their souls. I mean, is it just all of it that you love, or is there something really close to you?
I actually do love it all. I feel tremendously grateful and privileged, really, to be able to live both my vocations, as artist and writer, and also as coach, healer,
Uh-huh.
guide. And I, in terms of just the arts, I would say, language and song are my favorites. Um, language is at least filtered through the mind. And
Mhm.
song, I think, goes directly to the body. And we need both to actually change. And then the coaching work, the work that I do in Live Your Creative Genius, my group program, the work I do one-on-one, that is the change happening in the moment. And I feel like I just want to bow at the feet of the of
Yeah.
that process because for me, it actually is highly creative, that process. Um, I have a sense of what a client's needs are, what their blocks are. And then it's really about what's alive in the moment when we meet.
Mm.
And that too is a dance. It's um, they're drawing from they're the ones in their body and mind and heart. Like they're the experts on themselves. And so then it's me drawing from this toolkit to meet that wisdom and a little bit more to the right here, a little more to the left, um, we all have a lot of internal wisdom. I think of my work as helping usher that to the fore.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things you were going to treat us to is either singing a little bit for us or telling us the lyrics to one of your songs. Can you do that for us?
Gladly. Yeah. So this is Seed and Star. It's a song. It's on all the things. And yeah, it's been really sweet to watch it make its way into the world and hear from listeners. And it's okay, so I'm going to take a breath because I need to shift gears slightly to tap into my singing voice here. So, do you know what you are? You are seed and star. Don't forget, you are strong between earth and heaven. Read between the lines, dear. Love is what you'll find here.
Mm.
And the song goes on, but that's part of a verse in the chorus. Yeah.
Well, I need my breath right now because I was so touched. I'm like crying over here.
Oh,
It just
yeah.
really touched my heart to hear you sing that and to hear the words. And I'm sure our listeners feel the same way. I hope they're all driving safely because getting for their tissues and just oh,
Oh,
thank you for
yeah.
doing that. That was just so touching. I just so appreciated that. Okay.
Oh, yeah, it's funny. You'd mentioned that song, and I thought this is a good one to sing. But the chorus line, like "read between the lines, dear, love is what you find here." I feel like it's kind of on some level it's underlying everything I do because like you were asking about that. That's probably it. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
gorgeous. So, how can our listeners get started with you? I mean, your mood and the way you are is just, I imagine, some of them are going to want to reach out to you.
Yeah, thank you. There's so marisahandler.com, that's the best place to start. Uh, we have a really easy, fun way to dip in is Creative Archetypes quiz, which is kind of surprisingly informative. I made this with Claude, and it basically it tells you what your creative archetype is, and and really kind of how to follow that. It's something true about who you are and your
Mhm.
gifts. Um, One-on-one work, you can apply for a free breakthrough session. This is where we come together in sacred space to look at what your deepest, like your biggest vision is, and also what may be the obstacles, what the blocks that you've been holding, and then talk about how how to really bring that to life, with specific steps, whether we work together or not. Um, and I mean, and this is really key, and actually our next cohort starts in September, Live Your Creative Genius, which is a 9-month uh, in-depth group coaching program where we really do a lot of what I've been speaking about. We do this work together in community over time. And that's where the real transformation happens. The women who have graduated from this program consistently call it life-changing. It's about fully stepping into our authentic selves and working from there. And truly living our genius, not just producing, but coming into a place of ease and flow around that.
Mhm.
So yeah, if you're listening to this and interested in going deeper, I'd love to hear from you. There's the
Mhm.
breakthrough sessions. All of these are good ways in.
So, Marisa, I ask all my guests this question. What would you tell your 20-something self today?
Oh gosh. I tell her a lot, but I'd probably because that 20 something she could have used it. But I would say, I would start with saying stop trying to be impressive,
Mm,
and start trying to be real. The impressive part, let it take care of itself. But yeah, come into contact with who you really truly are and what you really truly want, not what you think you should want, and let that lead.
mm, love that. And lastly, did you get a chance to go to our online store? Is there
I
something I
did.
can
I
send
I
you?
I love it. Yeah. So my favorite was "Be you, the world will adjust." I mean, it's like that's exactly what I'm saying here, and you just nailed it. That's my favorite one. It's just,
It's
yeah.
also it's also my messiest one, which is why I love doing
I I love it, like visually as well. Yeah. I mean, I think it really speaks to so much, particularly with women. Like, be who you are. Emotions
Yeah.
are not the problem; they're the map. The mess it's the obstacle that's the portal. It's
Yeah.
the way through. All of it. Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I think it was just such an amazing episode, and I loved working with you and your light. It was just amazing. It's brilliant.
Thank
So
you.
thank you so much.
It's been a real pleasure and really right back at you. Like it's just a delight to talk to you and feel your warmth and love and care.
Oh, thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Thank you, Yo.
My sincere thanks to Marisa for such a thoughtful and heartfelt conversation. One of the ideas that stayed with me from this episode is Marisa's insight that shame tells us we're the problem, while worthiness reminds us that our value was never in question to begin with. Here are 3 reflections to carry with you. 1, fear is often the doorway to growth, not a sign to turn back. 2, creativity isn't reserved for artists. It's a way of trusting ourselves and bringing something new into the world. And 3, and perhaps most importantly, our worth is not something we earn through achievement, approval, or performance. It's something that's been with us all along. If you'd like to learn more about Marisa, check our show notes. We've got all her links there. Next week on Girl Take the Lead, we'll be joined by author, podcaster, speaker, and leadership advocate Cheryl Robinson. As a Girl Scout leader for more than 20 years and a member of the Girl Scouts of Wisconsin Badgerland Council, highest awards committee, Cheryl has seen firsthand how service projects help young women develop confidence, leadership skills, and a lifelong belief in their ability to make a difference. We'll explore the transformative power of the Girl Scout Gold Award, the highest award a high school Girl Scout can earn, and discuss how these experiences help young women discover their gifts, talents, and ability to create positive change in their communities. It's an inspiring conversation about leadership, service, and impact one person can have when they choose to lead. You won't want to miss it. I'm telling you, there's a lot of hope when you listen to these stories. As always, thank you for listening and for being part of this community. Until next time, listen inward, lead outward, and remember, your worth was never something you had to earn. Take care. Talk soon. Bye.